Hi everybody, welcome back to Silver Lining. I am so grateful you're here with me. To the new people, hi, welcome. Little intro to this podcast. Basically, I go through some tough, dark, traumatic events that I've been through and how I've poorly navigated them so you guys don't have to. And also how to find the silver lining in the darkest of situations. So the topics today that we're gonna get into are anxiety and addiction. Two very heavy topics. I am not a stranger to either one of these. I really struggled with anxiety, major anxiety for most of my life. I grew up in a very chaotic home where I didn't know what to expect. Every single moment of every single day, it felt like I was living in a war zone. Truly, I was in fight or flight, survival mode constantly, and that does a lot to your nervous system as a little kid. As a little kid, you're yearning for a nurturing, stable, secure environment, and I just simply never had that. I never had it, and it really formed this cloud of anxiety around me 24/7. I felt like I was walking on eggshells my whole life, and I know there are a lot of people that can relate to this. And if you currently feel like this, I promise you there is a way to get out of that negative cycle. I promise you. Listen, it's all about calling your power back to you, not letting any person, place, or thing determine how you feel besides yourself. And I know that can be very difficult if you're constantly in fight or flight or living in an abusive household where that's really all you seem to be seeing, right? But it's about a change of perspective. How do we change our perspectives on what is going on? At the end of the day, you have to realize that outside people, places, and things are always going to be throwing expectations at you, things that at the end of the day are not what you are, what you believe. Coming back to yourself is so important, and blocking out outside noise is the key to navigating anxiety. I've realized this by looking back at, surviving these abusive situations. I had to call my power back to me. I had to come back to myself. And that's really what I'm getting to. It is inherent in your soul, a state of peace. You deserve peace no matter what. And trust me, I know how difficult it could be to get back to that state of peace when you're constantly surrounded by people, places, and things that are trying to throw you off of that track. And I know it's easier said than done, but if you put one foot in front of the other and start thinking the thoughts that you want to think and feeling the emotions that you want to feel instead of allowing somebody else to determine how you feel, that is the cheat code to beating these negative feelings and emotions. At the end of the day, those are not even your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, right? So let's call our power back. Let's get back to who we are. You are so valued and loved, and at the end of the day, it's up for us to inherently feel those feelings of validation and love and security. If your environment is not giving that to you, you have to give it to yourself, period. And I spent a lot of my life blaming people, places, and things, my upbringing, my household, my parents, my friends, on how I was feeling. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to choose what we're gonna put our attention on. If you think about the future too much or the past, you, at the end of the day, are the one creating the anxiety and the depression. When you start to focus on things that bring you joy and living out your purpose and what authentically makes you happy, you begin to just let the other stuff fade away, and that outside noise becomes very minuscule. But it's up to us to take that first step. And there's going to come a time where you are not in that environment anymore. My advice to, if anybody is living currently in an abusive situation, get a game plan of how to get out. Whether it's going to stay with a friend, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, just get a plan to get out. because that's very important. You need to remove yourself from a situation where you are not valued. You deserve to be in a situation where you are valued and loved. And I know it, if you're 14, 15, it's hard to do that. Just be patient and hold on to your faith in something higher, that they will provide the steps to you to get out of there. But it's up to us to take the first step. Once you take the first step, everything is going to fall into place. You know, I was so anxious as a kid. I can't even explain it to you guys. I was always walking around like shoulders glued to my ears, like seriously thinking I was gonna die all the time, and truly wanting to take my life. I tried to take my own life plenty of times, and thank God it didn't work, and thank God I survived, and I'm here to be a testimony that it really does get better. And now I kind of want to get into how I poorly handled my anxiety. So as I was saying earlier, I grew up in a very chaotic household where I did not know the emotions and reactions that my mother was going to project onto me when I walked in the door. You know, half of the time growing up, my mom wasn't home. My parents were divorced. My mom was never really home. She was always on trips. My mom dealt with her own fair share of mental health issues and addictions, and you absorb those feelings as a little kid. We're very sensitive as children to our parents' emotions. And I grew up with very unstable parents, both of my parents. When I go visit my dad, it was just a toxic, all-encompassing feeling of worry and dread and sadness and anger, and I didn't know how to cope. I had no idea how to cope. And around 8th grade, rewind, I was raised by like nannies most of my life. I had a live-in nanny. That was my mother, you know what I mean? And around 8th grade, my mom didn't have the nanny anymore, and she would be home when we came home from school and such, right? So I would come home and my mom was passed out every day. You know, most kids come home and they have a parent to at least acknowledge them, help them with their homework, ask them how they are, how was your day at school, you know, any of that. And I didn't have that as a kid. I had no comfort. There was no escaping my constant worry about what was going on in my life and what was really gonna happen. So, like I was saying, I would come home every day and my mom was sleeping. And I was very curious as a little kid. Like, if I wanted to find something out, I would. So one day my mom was out when I came home, right? So I went into her room, I went to her nightstand. I'm like, what's so important in here that she has to be in here all the time and not really give my brother or I any attention? So I went to her nightstand, I opened up the nightstand, and in the drawer were about 20 pill bottles, prescription pill bottles. I was around 14 at this time, and my little detective ass, I go on my phone, I type in alprazolam, and that's what 90% of these pill bottles said, all different milligrams. And then I found out it was Xanax, and that was around the time where Lil Wayne was like the biggest artist, and all the rappers were rapping about Xanax and lean and alcohol and really just terrible things to be promoting to the youth. But music influences us, right? And I loved rap as a little kid. I really did. I had BET playing in my room like 24/7. I don't know if you guys have seen Mean Girls, but you know the scene where they go back to Regina George's house and they have the little girls like dancing in front of the TV to the rap song? That was me. Anyways, so I was like, okay, well, I wonder what's so special about these pills. Why are there so many of them in my mom's room? Also, another thing is when I looked up the side effects, it said sleepiness. So I go, okay, ding, ding, ding. This is what is making my mom sleep so much every day. So I'm like, you know what? Let me try it. And I tried it. I tried a pill, and the best way I could describe this is it was like the first time I could ever breathe. It was my first breath that I didn't feel like I was being suffocated and like the world was ending. I was like, okay, wait, life is okay when I'm on this. And looking back, it's just really sad to think that I was so young and that's what I thought was comfort, insecurity, and relief. But in actuality, that was one of the most destructive actions I've ever taken in my life, but I just didn't know better. And it also came with a lot of shame that I took something from my mom. I was always taught to be honest and not steal, clearly. She had so many pills that like it became a habit for me to go into her room and take these pills. And honestly, from that day on, that's when my addiction started to Xanax. And it lasted for about 12 years. And it's one of the hardest drugs to get off. And I would do anything at the time to find a sense of relief and run from what I was feeling inside. And it comes with, taking drugs to numb or suppress how you're feeling feels good for a very short period of time, but it's like putting a band-aid on a wound over and over and over and over again. Before you know it, you're gonna have to amputate your leg off because the wound is so terrible, right? And basically my life got to the point where I needed to amputate the leg off or stop everything. It got so bad that I was taking maybe like 20 Xanax bars a day, and I was so skinny, and I threw my life down the drain. And I have forgiven myself now, and I'm sober for almost 2 years now. 2.5 years? 2.5 years from taking any Xanax bars from the street. And maybe like 5 months ago, I stopped all of my prescriptions completely. I was prescribed Klonopin, very small amount, like 0.25 every other day, and Adderall. And I needed to before I started this podcast, I needed to let everything go. And I really needed to have a clear head and teach you guys from a place of authenticity. I felt like I was a fraud if I had anything to lean on that wasn't myself and my strength. It's just a dark cycle, and I do not wish it upon anybody. That was one of the hardest things to quit in my life. But the silver lining in this is that once I stopped all of the drugs, especially like numbing myself crazily a few years ago, yes, it was overwhelming to face these demons that I was suppressing and running from and avoiding, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was much harder to find drugs, find coping mechanisms, find a sense of relief than to deal with it head on. My best advice to you guys is to deal with whatever you are going through head on. Don't go around it. You have to go through it and feel the emotions and realize that that was never your weight to carry. Your trauma was never your weight to carry in the first place. That's the T. Your trauma from others was never yours to carry from the beginning. Once you release that load of worry and overwhelming feelings, it's much easier to follow the path you're actually supposed to follow and feel the feelings you're actually supposed to feel. And I know not all of you have struggled with addiction, but also you could be addicted to a feeling, right? You could be all consumed in your anxiety and not get through it. And I understand how hard it is to do that. I numbed it for so long because it was so overwhelming and so all consuming. And I get it. And my heart goes out to you. And I love you and I'm proud of you. If you're here right now, if you've gotten this far in the podcast, I want you to please comment down below something you are ready to face and something you're ready to release. And please subscribe to this channel. It's not for the subscribers. I want to create a family here where we could all heal together. I am so determined to make this world a better place, and I'm not able to do it alone. I need you guys too. I need your help. I want you guys to make friends in the comments. I want to build a big family and a community, and hopefully in a year you come back to me and tell me that your life has changed and I helped you get there. But at the end of the day, you are going to help yourself get there. You are stronger than you think. You are stronger than you give yourself credit for. If I could get to this point in my life where I'm not dependent on any substance, any negative person, any negative thought, I am not addicted to anything but bettering myself and helping others. And I found my purpose through all of the chaos. I found triumph out of the trauma, and I know you can too. If this podcast didn't directly help you, I hope that you could help somebody else that is going through similar situations. I know that these were really heavy topics today, but they're real, and I'm about being real on this podcast. I just am vulnerable and open up so it helps somebody else. I feel like also for you guys to be vulnerable in the comments, it's going to make somebody not feel alone. And that is such a beautiful, welcoming, empowering thing to do. I hope if this helped at least one person today, I did my job. I am so proud of you. If you made it to the end, I love you. I know that you can do anything you put your mind to. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a silver lining. I love you so much. I will see you guys on the next podcast. Bye.